Tri-City Sports Now with me, Marky Billson, coming at you. And right now in the NFC South, we haven't talked about the Carolina Panthers in a while. I remember having Panthers guests on during the infamous 6-10 season that they had last year. Saints were 7-9. Now they're tied with 10-4 records atop the AFC South, whereas the Atlanta Falcons are 9-5. All of those teams will make the playoffs if the season ends today. And really, that Falcons victory against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really did them some favors, because it appears right now, the Falcons basically have all the tiebreakers for that final wild card spot. They're 8-2 in the conference, for instance, so that's a good record. They've got a game, a head-to-head victory against, say, Dallas, 24-7 earlier on in the year. That's big for them. So Atlanta looking good to get that sixth playoff appearance, and possibly, I don't know how likely it is that they could defend their NFC championship, but it's on the table if it happened, that sort of thing. Anyway, I mentioned that we should, let's see here. Let's just, before we get to that, I wanted to say of course, the Falcons beating in the final seconds the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last night to go to 9-5, and that actually eliminates the Green Bay Packers from the playoffs. I was surprised to hear that. The Green Bay So now there's a question if Aaron Rodgers plays the rest of the way out. Do you want to risk injury to him after coming back and something like? But as I look through this, I would point out here the Panthers and the Saints, and they both have divisional games this week. But the big story with the Panthers is that they're up for sale, and Jerry Richardson, accused evidently of sexual and racial misconduct. So the 81-year-old Richardson, a former NFL wide receiver, is selling the team. Now, the big news came out that P. Diddy, Sean Combs, he wanted to buy the Panthers, and I don't really know if that's all that serious. His declarations basically seem sort of like somebody who didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't get the name of the team right. I want to bring in Colin Kaepernick to play quarterback. Okay, great. Only you have Cam Newton. Who pouts more? There's a good question. And then all of a sudden Colin Kaepernick started tweeting out, "I want in your ownership group, Master P." We talked about this yesterday. You know what this, excuse me, not Master P, I'm getting ahead of myself. P. Diddy. I'm sorry, I'm not down with the hip hop culture. Forgive me. No, that's not. I'm into hair bands. I'm into classic country. I'm into AC/DC. I'm into Airborne. But this is a little bit beyond me here, okay? I fantasized about the Donnas about 15 years ago. But yeah, anyway. I did get a tweet earlier today of Beyonce in an AC/DC t-shirt. Shania Twain was once on the cover of Rolling Stone wearing an AC/DC t-shirt before AC/DC was actually on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Only took Rolling Stone 35 years to discover AC/DC. But I would just point out that at least, yes, I know that Russell Simmons said hip-hop, united the masses. Maybe AC/DC does more. I'll just throw that out there. Anyway, the reason I was going with Kaepernick, and I mentioned Master P, doesn't Kaepernick, almost, choose me, I'll give you a few million, P. Diddy, choose me. Doesn't that remind you a little bit of when Master P did represent Ricky Williams, when Williams was coming out of Texas and playing for the Saints? And the NFL loved that. Oh, they rubbed their hands together. And Master P had absolutely no idea what he was doing. And Ricky Williams signed for less money. And we know how that worked out with Ricky Williams. You think about how many people he sabotaged there when he decided that he was going to quit the Dolphins, and so on and so forth. I mean, just, man threw away his career to smoke pot. Disgraceful. But anyway, so don't tell me that marijuana isn't, harmful. I mean, you've got people now that wanting to say it's a health drug and all this. But no, doesn't that remind you a little bit of that circumstance? That's why I think that, it's headlines, P. Diddy wants to buy the Panthers and all that. I doubt it's going to happen. You know who might buy the Carolina Panthers? What name has come out? This is a very interesting one. Eddie DeBartolo Jr. DeBartolo's, of course, used to own the 49ers. It's a tremendous dynasty in the 80s. Oh, I think that if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, you've got to be jumping up and down about this. Love to see the DeBartolos own the Panthers. What could they do? Of course, the DeBartolos are always in Youngstown. You have a feeling Pittsburgh Steelers fans, they want the Rooneys to own their team. I mean, you would not want anyone else but the Rooneys to own that team. They're not complaining about that one bit. Don't you think the Cleveland Browns fans would just love it if somehow, some way, I can't pronounce the man's name, Eddie DeBartolo from Youngstown would somehow buy out Jimmy Haslam and run the Browns? Don't you think that would be, But no, it's the Panthers who are up for sale, so they are reportedly interested in buying the team. That would be, the Carolina Panthers would then be the next great franchise in the NFL. I wonder about what teams are on the rise and on the decline in the NFL. The Saints did add some good young players, Alvin Kamara among them. But it still seems to me to be something of a veteran team, as long as certainly you have 39-year-old Drew Brees at the helm. What if the Saints win the Super Bowl this year? They're 10-4. It could happen. Eagles are down a quarterback. No more Carson Wentz. Does Drew Brees then say sayonara? Peyton Manning certainly hopes he would, because then he would still have the all-time passing yards record. If Brees comes back next year, then Brees will be the all-time leader in passing yards. That's pretty much accepted, even with the Saints running the ball more than ever. But, what if that... But you would think, wait a minute, how good will the Saints be if Brees retires? Who do they bring in? What if this is Ben Roethlisberger's last year? It's not. He's not going to go forever. The end is near for Roethlisberger. It's after this year, the next 2 years from now. What then happens to the Steelers franchise, which has never had a losing record since 2003, the year before Ben Roethlisberger? What happens to the Patriots, who in Brady, in 5 years now, it almost seems like, okay, he wants to play until he's 45. Everyone is giving him the 5 years now to play. How many rings does he get? How many Super Bowls do the Patriots go to? Don't they get sick of it after a while? No, they don't, But nevertheless, when these quarterbacks go away, you then look for a changing of the guard. Could it be the Eagles are the next big winners in the NFL? What with Wentz? Will it be Eagles, Cowboys? What with Dak Prescott in the years to come? Is Jimmy Garoppolo really this good? He's doing things in San Francisco that has not happened in 4 or 5 years. Is Jameis Winston, if the Buccaneers just keep it, is that their ticket to success? Just riding through, waiting for Breeze and Ryan to get old. For that matter, maybe even Cam Newton, although he's still in his prime and would figure to have multiple years left. What is the circumstance? I think there could be very soon, a changing of the guard. The AFC, Steelers and Patriots, they're the winningest teams of the century. I'm not so sure the Jacksonville Jaguars aren't the team to beat in the AFC this year. If the Bills somehow find a way, and they're battling for a playoff berth, if the Bills can somehow find a way to beat the Patriots this week, which is a long shot. Look, I've got the spread right here. Just to talk about this, let's see here. Bills, Patriots. Patriots are a 12-point favorite. Yeah, that doesn't look good for the Bills. But if the Bills could win that game, the Jaguars could very easily get a bye. They've got to play Garoppolo and the hot 49ers in San Francisco, but hey, you got to figure they can handle that. Especially if they know ahead of time that, hey, the Bills beat the Patriots. The reason why is that although the Patriots are in for the first seed right now, if they lose one more game, and the Jaguars, who don't have that tough, they play the 49ers and the Titans, do the Jaguars. Patriots will play the Bills and then the Jets. Steelers play the Texans and the Browns. So the Steelers will win out. Jaguars, you got to figure maybe they've got it in the cards to do so. And if they do, and if the Patriots were to fall to the Bills, then the Jaguars would get a bye. If somehow the Steelers would continue to play to the level of their opponents and get beat by the Texans, get beat by the Browns, that seems very unlikely. But, what if they take the game off? Thinking that they have it in line, Browns are desperate to win. It's a rivalry, all that dumb stuff, What happens then? The unthinkable does happen. Jaguars would then get home field advantage throughout. Now, I don't know. I'm the guy, I didn't think that much of, they didn't call the catch on Jesse James, Steelers lose. Because obviously, it didn't mean that much in that game that they were yelling at the Patriots in Heinz Field. I kind of think New England can handle that. I also kind of think, despite the results of the AFC Championship game last year, the Steelers can handle being yelled at in Gillette Stadium. They may not be able to handle hotel fire alarms being pulled in the middle of the night, but I think they can handle being yelled at in, they'll be cheering for the Patriots. Well, then the Steelers don't have a chance, do they? No team could go, they're going to be cheering against them. My goodness, I never thought that it was that big of a deal. Look, the number one seed in the NFC, the Cowboys, they lost their first game to the Packers last year, and that was that. I never thought that I understand the importance of home field advantage. I understand the importance of a bye. I think the bye is more important than actually home field advantage. Even with a team like Jacksonville going potentially to a New England or a Pittsburgh, basically, Paul Puzzle's name went to Penn State. I think he can handle the cold. It's just, I don't think that's that big of a deal. Anyway, that's the point there. Getting back, though, like I said, the Bartolos might be buying into the Panthers. I want to return to that very interesting person that is taking over the Carolina Panthers right now in the stead of Jerry Richardson. This is the operating officer. For the first time, a former cheerleader is now running an NFL franchise. That is ultra neat. Her name is Tina Becker. Yes, she was one of the infamous Top Cats. Speaking of the Top Cats, do you remember Angela Keithy and Renee Thomas from about 2005? I have in my dreams many times, but nevertheless, you can either look that one up or not. 12 years ago, the Carolina Panthers cheerleaders, gotten some big news right there. A lot of male fantasies being fulfilled, this sort of thing. Well, Tina Becker wasn't part of that. Tina Becker, I guess, a little bit more her head on straight. She's now the chief operating officer and been given full control of the day-to-day management of the organization. A good organization that's 10-4 in a first-place tie with the New Orleans Saints for the division. A team that could very well go to their second Super Bowl in 3 years. It's not out of the possibility. Becker began her career with the Panthers as a Top Cat cheerleader. She later became the squad's coach. She has served in a variety of other management roles during her career with the Panthers, including directing the organization's business and administrative operations, ticketing and sponsorship, and stadium operations, as well as dealing with league affairs. Prior to joining the owner's office, she was the team's director of entertainment from 2012 to 2014. So that's kind of interesting. I actually, I know a woman who dealt and was director of entertainment for several minor league baseball teams that were quite successful. So anyway, I'm very intrigued by that. I think that's a very interesting hire. We'll see how it works out. Tina Becker now running the Carolina Panthers from cheerleader to Chief Operating Officer. She'll be hiring the coaches. She'll be hiring the GMs. Approving where the scouts go. I don't think she'll make the draft picks, but, they make ones that she doesn't like for however long as she is running the team. Somebody's going to be in trouble. Anyway, that's what's going on. Speaking of fantasies, one fantasy in the sports world for the male sports fan has come on the horizon. Another one has been taken away. What am I talking about? You'll find out when Tri-City Sports Now continues.
The Tanasi Arts and Heritage Center in Unicoi, Tennessee was created to show